Venus. I said, okay. How far is Jupiter from Earth? She said, Dad, that's easy. This is Earth. This is Jupiter. And I knew she understood distance. She didn't have to say anything else. I knew from a 4-year-old that when you are in trial, how many of you demonstrate when you get in your trials? How many of you just let the state tell a case and you sit back and just cross-examine? How many get up and say, wait a minute, officer, isn't it a fact that if you're turning this way, so the jury could see it. And the jury can say, wow. That's what you want. Demonstrative evidence. I want to talk to you about some cases. Opening statements. Well, before I get to that, I want to talk about opening statements. I'm kind of going to different parts of a trial. You guys have heard me do an opening statement from a prosecutor's perspective, and I'm going to do one from, first of all, who has never heard me? Well, you haven't heard me speak. Let me do you the opening statement as though I'm a prosecutor. Then I'm going to flip it from a defense lawyer, okay? Opening statements can be very powerful. Let me give you an opening statement as though I'm a prosecutor. I love it, boy. The prosecutors usually have a better set of facts than I usually have. But I'm a prosecutor. And the judge said, counsel, you may proceed. Ladies and gentlemen, if you had been at Travis in Maine on November the 4th, 2015, right across the street, you see the Mulberry Apartments. Doors open, 116. The lady, Miss Smith, is walking toward that apartment. She's waiting on her sister, and her sister is never late. She walks into that front door. When she walks into the front door, the room is spotlessly clean as usual. And then she goes to the kitchen area. But when she goes to the kitchen area, there's a red arc of blood on the wall. And on the floor is her sister. And her head is sliced open like a watermelon. And she screams. And she screams. And she screams. And she didn't stop screaming until she heard the noise in the hallway. And then she remembered her niece and nephew. She ran to the hallway, and the niece was bending down like this, with her hand over her brother's mouth, saying, that man is going to get us. That man is going to get us. 2 weeks later, they took that little girl to a room. And men were standing up, walking to the middle of the room. They'd say a few words, and they'd walk back. Walk to the middle of the room, say a few words, and they'd walk back. The man in the third spot walked to the middle of the room and said a few words, and walked back. That little girl said, that man is going to get us. That man is going to get us. And ladies and gentlemen, that man is in this room. And he's sitting right over here. You remember the shift in atmosphere of the room? It's shifted again. Am I right? Now, and I sit down, folks. I don't need to say nothing else. I'm sitting down. This case's just about over with, right? Am I right? Can anybody tell me why this case is just about over with right now? But before you get there, what is the feeling in the room? What is the feeling? Anybody tell me a word. What is the feeling in the room? anger, fear, horror. What do we want to do with that little girl? Protect her. Who do we need to protect her from? That man. So that man we need to get rid of him, right? Do we really need the trial to go forward? Let's go ahead and just, let's stop it. We don't need witnesses, do we? You know what? Even if, let me tell you something, folks, even if that little girl comes into trial and says, y'all got the wrong guy, that's not him. We don't want to believe that. It doesn't matter whether it's the wrong guy or not. He's gone. Right? And Robert Jones said he's gone. And this is a trial lawyer. He's gone. You know why? Juanita, what's my time like? Because I'm always worried about time. Okay. You know why he's gone? Because it doesn't matter what the little girl saw. We saw it, the jury. The storyteller can let you see it before you hear evidence. And evidence doesn't matter because when the evidence comes in, all you're looking for is something that corroborates what you've already seen. Power of a storyteller. Look, folks, now when I say impossible cases, I started off trying a whole lot of impossible cases. And my brother would say, Tyrone, you losing all your cases. Yeah, that's all right. I know it. I am. And I was at one time sending so many people to the Texas Department of Correction that they started to name a unit after me. I didn't think that would be a good career move. But yeah, you got to know how to. I represented a young man who had 11 felony crimes in 2 days. 11. I counted them, 1 through 11. Now, it wasn't a question of whether he was guilty or not. The state wanted 60 years. 11. And a lot of lawyers say, hey, man, look, we just troubled. But Rob, I went back, and Cheryl went back to my old storytelling days, and I needed to find out my client's story. I needed to find out his story. When y'all think I'm talking about a story, I'm not talking about the events that happened that day for my client, those 2 days. I needed to know what my client's story was. Some of us don't know what our client's stories are. And some of the characters in your story have to change once you understand the story. We pled guilty. When the case started, we pled guilty, went straight to punishment. But I had a right to do an opening statement. Ladies and gentlemen, Mary Smith is 42 years old. And when she was 22, she had nieces and nephews, and she loved them to death. But like all mothers, young ladies, she wanted children of her own. And when she got pregnant with her husband, it was the most important day in her life. Her son came out, nice young man, grew up, doing fine in school until about the 4th grade. And then he started to, for some reason, slow down. Mothers notice it. Mothers notice it if nobody else don't. And he started to slow down. And she wound up having him take him out of that course and put him in another class. And he did well for a while, but then he slowed down more, and she wound up having to take him out of the school altogether. She sent him off to school. He did well for a while, and then he was sexually assaulted by people at the at the facility. He took them out of that facility and put them in another facility. The medication worked a while, but it didn't work. They had to take him out of that facility and put him in another facility. He did fine once he was on that proper medication, folks. Ladies and gentlemen, my first witness will be Ms. Jones. Now, look, what's the story? My client, he committed 11 different cases, but it's really not about him. It's about his mother. When his mother walked into the room, the jury already was emotionally attached to her. The jury was emotionally attached to the mother. And they were not going to let the state destroy the mother through that kid. Somewhere along the line, you've got to find someone who the jury can emotionally attach to, even when the case looks impossible. Murder case. My client, charged with murder, bully jumps on him and he takes his pistol and he shoots him. He's licensed to carry the pistol, kills him. I interview him as, well, I shot him right in the front. And then when I looked at the state's evidence, 7 shots in the back. 7 shots in the back. When I looked at the state's evidence, not state's evidence, you know what I mean? When they let me look at that case, and I had to find my guy's story. Do you know what? This is a nice kid, the one I represented, who shot this young man. And I had to dig deep to get his story because he didn't know what it was. He goes somewhere and when he gets to this location, this guy, the bully in the neighborhood, starts jumping him and all he did was start hitting him like this, Rob, and my guy went for his pistol and fired. And he continued to fire. Left his pistol there, he called the police. And when he got there, he did what all of our clients shouldn't do, is go talk to the police. Told him I shot him dead in the chest 3 times, and when the autopsy report showed that he was shot in the back 7 times, my client was indicted for murder. Impossible cases. But I started to dig, because if he was the bully, right? Look, the bully has a reputation, right? So you go to the neighborhood and you want to find out, was there anybody who would attest to the fact that he was the bully? I ran across one lady and I asked her, nice lady, I said, what do you think about when you hear this person's name? She said, I think of one word. I said, put it in one word for me. She said, menace. Menace, that's what I think about. And I started to round up people who would come into court to show this young man was a menace. But that's not all that happened. One of the witnesses I called was a U.S. Marshal. My client's, one of his best friends was a U.S. Marshal. He was the one who came and picked him up when he found out he had a warrant on him. I said, man, how is it possible to shoot someone and they wind up with all those bullets in the back and you think you're shooting them from the front? He said, let me tell you a story. Going back to stories, right, Cheryl? When I was young, how many people play baseball when young? Little League. How many of you tried to play a back catcher? See, nobody wanted to be back catchers, right? Well, this U.S. Marshal said, I wanted to play back catcher, so I would bend down and they tell you how to catch the ball to come to you. But they'd also teach you something else. When that ball skips in front of you, how do you get up and cup it? But he said, every time the ball would get up and cup, hit in front of me, I turned my back. And I always get hit in the back. I couldn't play back catcher. And then I went through my client's story again, and I said, I wonder if there was a shot that made this guy turn his back. Because if that was true, then that might have been a shot to one part of his body that made him turn his back. And the bullets would have been probably on one side of his body. And then I went back to my evidence, not the state's evidence. I went back to that autopsy report again. And I saw how that photograph told my story. It told my story. See? But if you walk in with, and he got not guilty, folks. But if you walk in thinking it's the state's case, if you walk in that courtroom and when you're present, you know how you get state's evidence? I mean, I've seen some young lawyers, you know, they're scared to take the evidence. Pick it up, walk around with the jury and say, look, wait a minute, folks, do you see this photograph? Look at it with me. Take control of the room. Use that whole room. Lawyers, I mean, judges and I hear people say, well, Tyrone, you're supposed to sit at the table. No, that's just what they tell you. I sit there for a little while, yeah, but you see, I gotta use that whole story. This guy trying to make me fall. I gotta use the whole room. I gotta get up and walk toward the jury box. And I gotta let them know this is what we're doing. And they're wrong. Does that mean I'm winning all my cases? No. No. Wish I could. But I'm going to sure give them hell. See what I mean? I'm going to sure give them hell. And they should know, young lawyers, raise your hand again, 5 years or less. You're just starting, but something else is starting with you also. You're developing a name. You're developing a reputation. And prosecutors and judges will anticipate something